Psychology is one of the most underrated and misunderstood career options right now. In this episode, we try to make a roadmap that who can be a psychologist, how to be a psychologist, and exactly what footprints you need to follow. We are trying to build ecosystem around mental health and psychology so that people are more adaptable. In this episode, we are joined by Harini, who's a counseling psychologist, and she is amazing as a speaker. It's been more than 3 years for her in the industry, and in this episode, we discussed a lot of things about how to be a psychologist and what roadmaps different psychology fields follow. If you want to be an IO psychologist, if you want to be a counseling psychologist, if you want to follow RCI license, this episode is for you. If you want to just get an overview about the industry of psychology, this video is for you. So, hey Harini, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. What about you?
Good, good, good. So, in this conversation, we are going to talk a lot about how to become a psychologist, how anybody can become a psychologist, what are the qualifications that people would clear off, and what are the scopes, how much psychologists earn, what are the different type of psychologists, because right now many people used to think that psychologists are just counseling psychologists, and that's not the real reason to not go to therapy, because they are a bit confused to RCI licensed towards sports psychologist. We can discuss about these things in just a brief. So yeah, going further, how to be a psychologist.
Okay. It's a great question at the beginning itself, because RCA have changed so many things in the past few years. Even people in the field also was very confused how to become a psychologist, how to get a license, how to be a practicing psychologist without license, and so many questions around this are popping up to the students. And even taking psychology as a subject has drastically moved to the next level after the COVID pandemic. So lots of students are suffering from what to take in the first, because our standardization also not on place in India right now, like abroad. So there are a lot of confusion who have done psychology before 2025, because there is very different pathway to get a license, to be a practicing therapist and all. After 2025, we came into few clarities as well. And UGC has removed MPhil in all the fields, including psychology. Before, MPhil is the only one pathway we can get a license in psychology. So, how to become a psychologist? If you are taking a bachelor's degree in any stream, you can able to take masters in psychology as well. Or else the second path is, if you are taking your bachelor's in psychology, that will more helpful for your masters as well. But if you finish your bachelor's, that doesn't mean you can be a practicing psychologist or you can talk like a psychologist. But if your major in your bachelor's is different, but your master is psychology, you can be a practicing psychology as well. The primary qualification is
Mhm.
master's in psychology in any field.
Understood. So, for example, if I did BTech of 4 years or BBA for 3 years, and I'm not finding a space for myself in corporate, I'm not enjoying what I am doing, and I am more curious about psychology and I want to join this particular field. So, what should I do? Should I do masters or should I do a certification to be a psychologist?
Yes, this is the one major part. If you do a certification, you are not a qualified psychologist
Hmm.
and you are not allowed to practice as well. According to the UGC guidelines, if you have to be a qualified psychologist, master's is the best way. You can start with your master's in psychology. There are many more fields like sports psychology, forensic psychology, counseling, clinical, and many more. In India, these are the few things, but in abroad, it's much more like media psychology, nutritional psychology, and so many things are there.
Right. So, I just want to clarify one thing to the audience specifically because many life coaches or many people who are self-proclaimed therapists do check their profiles. If they have masters, only go for that. Otherwise, don't opt for it because if a person don't have masters, they're not a psychologist. Masters in psychology. So if anybody is doing B Tech or BB and then doing a certifications for 2 months, they're not qualified enough to be a therapist. They are only qualified after masters. And I believe masters is a very good scope to learn psychology. Especially, I just came across this particular psychology field that is business psychology. That is mostly popular in Europe. Uh, Many psychology, the business psychology field guys are sitting in board meetings, boardrooms, and analyzing the pattern of their competitors or the negotiation tables. They're advising the board members that, hey, the person you are negotiating with is acting in this particular sense. You must speak this now. You must act in this particular way. Then there is performance psychologist. Then there is somebody who is into couple. Then there is couple therapist. These are niches, I think so. But initially there are couple. Initially there are you can say counseling psychologist and then clinical psychologist and sports psychologist. Then we have a subpart of it like couples, autism, child psychologist, and different dance therapists, music therapists. These are the subset of it. Am I right?
Actually, yes, these are the subset of it, but in abroad, it's also a major. If you want to be a couple therapist, you have to take couple counseling for your
Right, right.
2 years, 1 year of your master's. But in India, it's not like that. Right now, there are few major classifications, like as you mentioned, and this will be the subset of it. Those who do the diploma or certification in particular specialization, they will allowed to practice those things.
Yes, and in India, what I personally feel like is the wellness space is booming. Recently, yesterday only, there was one podcast from Think School. So I love that channel. I think so. His founder is Ganesh. He's working really great. He was talking in front of, you can say, thousands of people and also directing towards what exactly businesses should do. So he just uploaded a video where there was a roundtable with founder of No Broker, Apollo 24/7, and a couple of great guys in the industry. So they also talked about this. The wellness space is really booming. So when the wellness space is booming, the demand of psychologists will also be at the high stake. So you can say higher the demand, there should be supply as well. So people are also shifting now and pivoting their careers to psychologists. So what are the exams that anybody can look up to give a chance for themselves to be a psychologist?
Okay. So to be honest, if you want to enter into the field, there is no exam needed apart from your master's to enter into the field of psychology, particularly. But if you want to enter into something like IIT, or if you want to enter into a educational field like teaching or something, You need to crash few exams like NET, National Eligibility Test for Psychology, and GATE exams are there for psychology. If you are cracking GATE, you can be a researcher in higher institutions like IITs, NITs, and all. These are the few exams you can crash in psychology to work in the particular settings after your master's, not before your master's as well. Because the basic qualification to crack this exam also, you have to finish your master's, or else at least you have to finish your first years of master's. This is the basic qualification to crack, attend to this exams as well. So these are the few things they can do after their masters to go into particular field of psychology. I'm remembering because in India for counseling and this major kind of clinical psychologist, there is no exam per se. They'll have clinical hours to complete, internships and supervisions from the fellow therapist, and these kind of mandatory things. These are called, we'll say, no, unwritten norms like that. These are the unwritten things in the rule book you have to take before your practice and coming into the field of psychology per se.
Right. So how long this journey is? So for example, if I want to be an engineer, I can just do 4 years of BTech. And then, for example, if I need a promotion, I can do online MBA, or you can say if I just want to get a pivot in my career, an advancement, a bigger leap in my career from, you can say, associate engineer or maybe a ground level engineer to the manager position in any other company. So I can just go for MBA for 2 years. Within 6 years, I will be, you can say, a good level manager in the corporate, right? So that's how people think that, hey, I'm doing engineering, I can at least get a job. And then if I want a leap in my career, I can do MBA then. I am doing BBA to just learn business, and then I will do my own business, or maybe I will just look into startups. So this is how people think. And this is how their career map comes for 3 years to 6 years. How long psychology journey is?
Actually, this is very tricky and complex question for whoever in the field of psychology itself, because the field itself not self-sustained, I would say. But the basic years, if I would say, is 5 years. You need to complete your degree to enter into the field, which is your 3 years of bachelor's and 2 years of master's. But once you got come out of your master's, you can't able to be a practicing psychologist. So there, one more if condition will be applied, which is at least you have to complete 250 hours of your clinical training with a supervision, which is your internship or anything which you are part of. At least 1 year of proper training under supervision you need to come into the field of clinical or counseling. I'm taking these two examples because in India, these are the major two field which they are taking by a lot of students. If you are, because a lot of career options are there in psychology itself, and it's evolving year and year, day by day as well, if I would say. So, if you want to be work under some digital things which you have said, under some app creation or gaming creation, and nowadays, a lot of people are learning coding, a lot of psychologists to create those tools for, in psychology, modalities in psychology, and all. If you have to be in educational setup, there is nothing. Policy making, these kind of stuff's also there in that. If you want to be in the therapeutical setting, it's you need at least 1 or 2 years to learn all the therapies practically, hands-on practice, clinical hours. If you want to jump into the other side of the field, which is digital tools, educational institution for policy making, schools for curriculum building, for mental health, capacity building, workshops, and so many modalities. It's all your interest which you have to decide because we don't have major people who are already in that path. We have to create our own path, how to do or how to go on that particular field.
Understood. Understood. So multiple psychologists who also are now launching their own brand, right? So that is also one major vertical nowadays, launching your own micro brand, MSME, or just a small brand over a website plus having it on social so that you can at least stay relevant in the market. So this is a great opportunity for psychologists as well. So what I uh, realized while talking to you is psychologists have different verticals after their masters. So to at least enter into the field, 5 years is important, 3 years bachelor's, 2 years masters. And then whatever you want to do with the knowledge that you have attained. If you want to go to sports psychologist, you can of course go for diploma for you can say 2 years more. You can then also get into corporate directly. Many companies are hiring psychologists for analyzing human behaviors, analyzing UX. Even what I can personally see coming is multiple psychologists will be hired in companies who are hardware centric. So glasses will be the next revolution, the glasses that you are wearing. Multiple psychologists will be hired to analyze that impacting the human behavior or is it impacting the mental health side of clients? So this is also the next revolution coming up. Multiple job opportunities will be there.
Exactly.
Even
Exactly. To be,
UGC.
yeah,
Quite,
yeah,
quite.
yeah, yeah, yeah. To be honest, people are only searching for clinical or counseling, either in a hospital setup or in a counseling setup. But psychology is a very, very, very vast area to explore. As you have mentioned, corporates, a lot of corporates are hiring psychologists for policy making, to handle the difficult situations in the company between the management and the employees, and in educational institutions between the academic staff between and students, how academics is affecting them. And even in schools and all, mental health curriculum they are working on. A lot of people from different things. For example, there is one thing called Teach for India, right? These volunteers also equipped to be a first aiders in schools. Psychologists are involving in that. A lot of NGOs to be say for women's. Do you know this short stay homes for women's like that? These kind of places from family court, even family courts have psychologists. A lot of options we have, but opening the correct door, knocking the correct door is in the person's hand because people are thinking only two things are in psychology, but no, it's not. Even in creating a social media, starting from your Instagram, your YouTube, there are psychologist involvement in that. Even in your games, which you are playing, PUBG, everything, the rewarding system in the games, even that itself have psychology. So psychologists have vast opportunities currently in India.
Right, because I was studying this detailed analysis for the job trends. So post-COVID, in past 5 years, we saw a regular dip in hiring for engineers. So we did an analysis for job trends post-COVID. We figured out that companies are hiring for well-being experts, but they are laying off tech guys. So this was a trend. So we saw a really, really bigger deep dip in hiring for engineers and a slightly dip in management as well. But for the well-being experts, we saw a great rise. People from physiotherapy background, from nurses background are getting hired because more hospitals are getting open. Multiple hospitals are now have these counselors rooms right now. So many counselors are getting hired in these particular hospitals. The distribution is really, really getting vast. Schools are now prioritizing psychologists. Multiple franchisees of sports are hiring sports psychologists to understand the behavior of your particular athletes and try to work on their mental capabilities. Then there are multiple psychologists in business boardrooms. Then there are multiple psychologists for institutions, even for sales right now, multiple psychologists are there to understand what the user want and what the sales guys are also proceeding with. So psychologists are nearly everywhere where I can go into tier one cities. Of course, tier two and tier three cities are getting absorbed, and it will take time to get deep nourished. But the industry is now respecting psychologists and they are hiring at a scalable level.
Actually, to be honest, in the past 5 years, these changes are very rapid in the field of psychology. But we are not there yet, but we are trying to be there in this loop. But people are confused because this is the new thing for our population in India. They were confused where to go, and they were stuck with this coaches, motivational speakers, and so many things. Even the people who are in the field of psychology, who they were confused to where to go. There is no proper guidance in the field
Hmm.
per se, to be
Right.
honest. When it comes to, I'm not sugarcoating everything because sometimes we need to tell the truth to the people who wants to uh, carry forward in this field as well. The guidance is very less, and the understanding of the course and the scope and the income also it's very different. There are a lot of myths also around this field. So many people are confused in between. They are giving a mixed reactions instead of whether we are doing the correct thing or not. I want to take care of my mental health, but where to go? They are spending thousands and thousands with people who are not qualified, right? They are spending
Right.
lakhs and
So
lakhs as well sometimes.
agree. What I personally believe here is psychologists need to understand how to market themselves and how to do business. And even what exactly are the basic, you can say, footprints of building your own brand. So if you don't talk about what do you have to offer, and a good marketer who have less qualifications and who is not even properly qualified to do something will get more clients because he is good at marketing. That's the truth. That's the truth of the market. Just giving you a very vague overview on this, there was an application Hike, right? That was used for chatting, that was used for texting and everything. It was really, really better than WhatsApp.
Oh,
So Hike was nearly dominating in that space. But within few years, WhatsApp took over and Hike lost its charm and then Hike shut down because Hike was not clear about what they are offering, what I personally believe and what multiple business owners also believe. WhatsApp was clear cut that, hey, privacy. simple chat, and connect these things. Hike was offering multiple things, was not able to market it properly. So you have to understand a bit of marketing, business, and product, what you're offering. There are multiple motivational speakers who are not qualified but are making 10x of any psychologist just because they have a marketing. So that's the harsh truth. Like psychologists have to understand that, hey, I need to learn marketing, otherwise I need to outsource it at least to sustain because the layering will not happen then. The trust layering will not happen. If you don't talk about your marketing things, it will not work. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. When it comes to this, because there are two different skills people are working under. Those are called, one is organizational skills or administration skills. The another one is your counseling or clinical skills, right? So many times psychologists will be confused in between this, where to use which skill. Your marketing skill, your leadership skill, your administration skill, and all you have to use when you're in that kind of setup. You can't able to be empathetic, active listening in the same thing which you are using in your counseling skills. There is a lot of biases will be there. So a lot of psychologists who are not even starting their own brand or own uh, what to say niche have these kind of difficulties. Many a times they don't know where to use which skill. If I'm be empathetic, unconditional, positive regard with my manager or someone, I can't able to sustain in that environment, right? I have to talk for myself, even if it's rude or something. And if I want to make my team to work on something, I have to use my leadership skill there. I have to give them the deadline. But when it comes to psychology and these kind of things, we can't able to do that. I have to be more empathetic. I have to be very flexible to their needs. So many times they don't know when they are missing these, mixing these two things together, and lack of self awareness also. That's why it's very important. You have to know when to reach out for your own self as well, instead of mixing and a lot of things, transference, counter transference will take places here. So these are two different things. All the psychologists who are working in this field, they need both the skills. Where to use those skills, you have to be very sure. Your marketing skills, your administration skills, your leadership, clarity, decision making. It's very, very important, like your counseling skills, like empathy, active listening, your unconditional positive regards, like that. So this is a big conflict with all the people who are working in psychology. They'll be very good therapists, but they won't enter into self-marketing. But the motivational speakers on the other side, they'll very nicely market themselves, but they won't have the skills of the qualified skills per se.
Right, right. To just give you an example, go to the top five podcasters of India. Check their mental health scopes and podcast series. You will rarely find any psychologist there. It will be, for example, 10 episodes they collaboratively shot for mental health and well-being. Two will be or three will be just for psychologists. So there will be mental health advocates or people
Yes.
who are from motivational background or life coaches. They will not be a psychologist just because they don't have that much eyeballs, right? To crack
Yes.
that, you need to have a marketing person, or you need to understand whosoever is watching. You can also outsource it or can collaboratively do. For example, Bhuvan Bam. Bhuvan Bam is not just great because of, you can say, his acting or his skills. under top 10 YouTubers, and he is really, really very big. He is known as Shah Rukh Khan of YouTube from India because he have his manager who is his best friend of BBK Vines. So these are the two guys. One is acting as a backbone in the background, and second, Bhuvan Bam is at front. So whatever series he was, whatever distribution that BBK Vines has created, it's because of his manager plus Bhuvan Bam. So it's both working together. So Bhuvan Bam was focusing on content creation. That's the main core thing. And then the second person, Rohit, I think so, his name is Rohit. He was working towards the management side. So what I personally believe is there will be two edge products or services in future. For example, Byju's, Physics Wala, these companies are ed tech, education and tech. Education is one core, technical is second core. So there are two cores. There is, you can say, multiple services that are ad tech, advertisement plus tech, that is ad tech. So there are companies who are agency models. So there is tech agency, so tech consulting. So there's consulting, then there is tech. So everything is two major part, two cores. You have to build it. One is psychology that psychologists have. The second can be a distribution. It can be marketing. It can be technical thing. It can be socializing or whatever it is. To build that, you can go towards multiple meetups. You can join multiple clubs, communities to at least get referrals and get some buzz and some recognitions. But yeah, marketing yourself is majorly important now. Yes, so going further in the conversation, we have talked about who can be the psychologist, how they can be a psychologist. Now, we can talk about how they can choose their fields and what are the types of field, like sports psychologists, what are the scope of it. We can we can talk about these in just a brief.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, majorly consumed field in psychology is clinical and counseling because of the major need which we had during the COVID-19 pandemic. After that, it was bloomed. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, so much of psychologists has volunteered within the state corporations as a telecounselors. Because of this environment, we are only in home and we were isolated during the infection and all. A lot of people were stressed to talk with them and all. So due to these kind of steps after a COVID pandemic, clinical and counseling become a major psychology field which is consumed by the students. And right now we also have one more psychology, as you mentioned, is sports psychology in India. So when it comes to clinical, you can do your assessments part. For example, diagnosing part of any sort of mental health disorder in a clinical setting, which might be ADHD and autism, depression, and any sort of diagnosis from children to aged person. These kind of diagnosis they'll majorly focus on a clinical psychologist. For that, a person need a license. All right. So this time, if you do MA in clinical psychology, under RCI recognized institution, which is Rehabilitation Council of India. If you do that, you'll get a license called Associate Clinical Psychologist. So you can have this diagnostic things in clinical setups. When it comes to the second next part, which is counseling psychology, you don't need any license per se, but they are the qualified psychologists who are involved in counseling clients, which is involving talk therapy, or any sort of therapeutic interventions. When it comes to this, you can work in any sort of freelancing role. You can start your own private practice as well for counseling individual from this is to adolescents to aged person, any sort of counseling. For example, academic problems, relationship issues, couple therapies, traumatic incident, trauma focused therapies, and cognitive behavioral therapy, and career decisions, decision making, any sort of things. You can have a talk therapy or a therapeutic sessions like examples, any sort of interventions you need for your problem, which will be handled by your own. No biological changes in your brain. All right. So, counseling psychology will be majorly focused on those things. When it comes to sports psychology, they'll be majorly focused on performance issues in sports, any sort of sports, athletes, or any weightlifters, bodybuilders, any sort of sports, national level competition they're attending. They will talk about your performance things. Even there is something called performance anxiety, motivational issues, and any sort of block in your brain. For example, I have a mind block on I can't able to do enough. Comparison issues, inferiority, these kind of issues they'll be majorly focused on. But when it comes to sports psychology, the opportunities are very, very limited. The guidance will you get in the field also will be very, very limited. You have to choose very wisely because very few institutions in India are properly guiding the student in sports psychology. Those institutions also only government institution, not that much more popularity in private institutions. And the amount you are going to spend to study these psychologists also will be very high if you are taking it in a private institution when it comes to sports psychology. When we talk about clinical and counseling, clinical will be little more expensive. Counseling psychologist expenses to study will be little more lower than clinical. But when it comes to sports psychology, if you have a seat in a merit basis in a government university, that is good. But if you want to take it in a private institutions, you have to spend more than clinical psychology. So these are the three major psychologists in India. Other than that, there is something called criminal psychology. These people will be work particularly majorly with thief, CBI, these kind of things they'll be involved in. They'll be in jail also. They used to, even the uh, people in jail also need some sort of counseling if they have mental health issue. So these people will be work under these categories. Only in Pune, I think, Pune or Gujarat, I don't remember. So we have only criminal psychology is there only. Criminology is there in so many states, in so many colleges, but criminal psychology is only in that place. And something called occupational psychologist. There is no particular course yet on occupational psychologist, but these are the specializations. These are the major categories in that. And next subcategories are occupational psychologist, industrial psychologist, health psychologist. These are all the subcategories. Mostly health psychologists will work in the hospitals with people who have congenital disease, chronic illnesses, acute illnesses, those who need surgery, they're scared of surgery. Before that, they'll be involved, health psychologists. When you come to industrial psychologists, these people are in corporates. When starting from counseling a employee and managing between management and employee, policy making, even how the industrial environment will make your productivity more. These kind of research also they used to do, as you mentioned, UX research. they used to conduct. These are all the subcategories in the field, but majorly in India, the first four, which is the clinical, counseling, and your sports, and the criminal psychology. These are the major categories. You have a degree in India. Other than that, if you want to pursue that particular thing, you need to go either for a certification or you have to spend for diploma in that particular field.
Right. For even IO psychology, I found that multiple colleges are offering IO psychology in their masters, but in return, there are not enough jobs. So that are coldly related to IO psychology. HRs, of course, there are people. In recruitment,
Yes,
there are
yes.
people. So many psychologists who are doing IO psychology are end up getting into HRs. But they want to be into organizations. They want to build the curriculum in that way for the industry analysis. They want to do something related to IO, but they are end up getting into hiring processes, management processes, because these are the requirements. India don't have that much IO psychology needs. So we are building the layer up. I think so many startups are getting registered. In past 10 years, we saw a major jump in startups and companies who are getting into the new age work culture. For the next 5 to 6 years, we can witness a major growth in this particular field. So, moving further, we would love to discuss rapid fire myths and facts about psychology. My team also discussed internally that they were very curious to do something new. So this rapid fire can also give us a new direction in the podcast series. So let's start with the rapid fire.
Yeah, we can.
Sure. So psychologists always have their life sorted. Myths or fact?
Obviously, this is a myth because we are all humans too. We also need help at certain part, as I have mentioned while our conversation as well.
Mhm.
You have to know the line between being okay or not okay. Self-awareness is the biggest key for a psychologist as well. Because people who are in the field of helping nature, first line helping workers, they'll have something called vicarious trauma
Hmm.
because which the person doesn't know is it affecting us or no. There is no reason for their sadness because they're always in the helping part. They is not understand their own self at points. So it's a myth, complete myth. They also need a therapist. A therapist will have a therapist always because doctors can't be able to do their own surgery, right? Like that. All the therapists will have their own therapist. Whenever they are not okay, they will for sure go for their own therapy session or supervision.
Okay. The second one is, will AI replace psychologists?
It's a myth. AI can able to support the modalities and the interventions, the behavioral part of it, but AI can't able to replace the human connections between the client and the therapist because it's very complicated and complex. It need it's not all size fit for one, right? So it will vary. Even though the algorithm is there in AI and all, it can facilitate it, it can improve
Mhm.
it, but not fully. All alone, it can't be. So human connections are irreplaceable in therapeutical setting.
Okay. The next one is, mental health literacy can prevent problems for becoming crisis because many people are now becoming mental health advocates. So is it a fact or a myth?
It's a fact to an extent because awareness is the key, right? The
Mhm.
word is also actually nice. I'm not a therapist. I'm a mental health advocate. I will
Mhm.
talk about mental health and I'll destigmatize everything. It will also make the people aware about the red
Hmm.
flags. they are facing. Because few years back, we are all not even aware of the red flags of autism. If we are finding out autism in an early age, there is something called early interventions
Hmm.
that will work best than the therapy after your 2 years of your kid. So early interventions will be help if you are aware of those signs. So it's a fact. The knowledge will help you to find out certain red flags in your own surrounding. It will make more attempts to be aware and take the support at a proper time, I feel.
Understood. The next one is psychology is only about giving advices.
Big myth. First thing is psychologists don't give advices,
Hmm.
particularly in therapeutical settings, because everyone have the right to decide their own life. They are the best decision makers. Therapists will be like a walking stick. When you need help, they'll be like a stick till your wound will be healed on your legs. Once you are
Mhm.
healed, you have to walk alone without the stick. So the primary motto or the goal of therapy will be independent, make you independent.
Hmm.
And they won't advise at all. They will give you several ways because there will be a pattern with the individuals, right? So what they'll do, they will observe it, they will put it on the table. They have to pick what they want.
Understood. So psychologists work on themselves too.
Yeah, it's a fact. As I mentioned earlier, we also need a therapist whenever we are low little bit and we don't have any directions to go and everything is blocked in front of our eyes. Then we face burnout or transference and
Mhm.
counter-transference. When little bit, if I want to tell about transference and counter-transference, feelings of any sort of relationships with the clients.
Hmm.
That's called transference. From the client side, if they come like I thought you are looking like my sister or some other
Mhm.
feelings, that's called transference. If the therapist also feel the same, it's called counter-transference. If you watch the movie Dear Zindagi, at last she'll say that I thought it'll be continue. You look like this. So that's where
Mhm.
transference and counter-transference will be shown very nicely. So at the point, Shah Rukh Khan used to set boundaries there, right? So therapist also needs supervision to
Hmm.
work on these kind of stuffs.
Right. The next one is psychology is useful in leadership and management.
Yeah, of course, it's a fact. Psychology will be useful in leaderships, management, your
Mhm.
administration part, but as I mentioned earlier, where you have to use particular skill is more important. If you use your empathetic and these kind of skill, that won't be
Mhm.
helpful in that particular environment. But it will be very useful for your team building, the type of leadership you are carrying with your team on a particular
Hmm.
basis. Analyzing your team members' style of working and their kind of venting out, doing a work, deadlines. It will be very helpful if you know psychology, you can able to lead a better team.
Right. So next one is you need to be emotionally perfect to be a psychologist.
It's a myth, big myth. If it's a fact, no one can able to be a psychologist. Even psychologists will have their own mental health issues. They'll go for psychiatric interventions or psychological intervention, yet they'll handle the client issues or the other problems. They will take a break, but if they are perfect, they have to be in psychology. No. Even vulnerable
Hmm.
people can able to understand the other person more than the person who doesn't have any sort of vulnerabilities. So vulnerabilities also help the client to understand better. So if
Understood.
you are imperfect also, it's okay. You can work on yourself as well by helping your clients as well.
Understood. Only extroverts are good therapists.
A big myth because extrovert will be always talking and they will feel like engaging with conversation which they have started, right? So
Mhm.
introvert or good listeners. The primary skill in counseling psychology or clinicals will be active listening. So
Mhm.
listening is one of the major first few skills after empathy. So introverts will be a good listeners. If you have a good listening ability, you have more sense to understand the people. So introverts are also good at be therapists in the field.
Understood. The last one is not every client needs the same type of therapy.
It's a fact because
Mhm.
all the client will be different. Their emotional thing will be very complicated. If we only sit with talk therapy or something,
Mhm.
it won't work for many clients. Sometimes client won't like to talk. We will go
Hmm.
to art-based therapies. If a person is an auditory person, they won't like art. They need something to hear. We need to go into music therapy or something like that. So not every size fit into the one
Mhm.
kind of module to all the clients. We have to be an eclectic counselor to address different kind of issues in case-to-case basis.
Understood. So it was a great set of myths and facts, and I hope audience also recognized a couple of myths and facts in their real life. I really liked um, the whole conversation of divisions.
Okay. The
Yeah.
different kind of
Verticals.
psychology. All
Right.
right.
Right. That was
I have
really
missed major one thing in that, which is applied psychology. One more major field in psychology is applied psychology, something called wherever you you can able to apply the psychological aspects. It might be
Mhm.
your work, it might be your counseling, it might be like I mentioned your app building, your gaming things, and AI tools. So this is called applied psychology. You will be studying all the whole thing, different settings of things you will study, but which one you are going to specialize is your own wish. At the end of 1 year of applied psychology, you can choose a particular field and you can be a specialized person in that field. And one more major part is child and adolescent psychology. It's in India as well. If you are studying about child psychology, you will be working in the early interventional part of it. For example, I said a baby with autism, a baby with ADHD, and developmental disorders like cerebral palsy, and these kind of disorders, and classroom things with childs. You'll be deeply study these kind of topics, and then you have to do your specialization according to your particular disorders.
Right. So, what a personal takeaway from this conversation was psychology as a field is growing to put ourselves up. As a psychologist, I'm not a psychologist by the way, but whosoever is a psychologist is going to put themselves up in the market, need to understand marketing, and need to understand the deep knowledge of where the field is directing towards. Then I learned also about there are multiple divisions of the psychology field. It can be sports psychologist, applied psychology, IU psychologist, child therapist. There are different options as well. So there are multiple verticals and options that they can explore. So they are not just limited to one particular field. there are still a lot of options that they can go towards. There are multiple requirements as well. Even abroad, there are multiple other fields as well, like media therapist you talked about. You talked about business therapist, business psychologist. So there are different type of verticals that psychologists can, of course, look up to. Any last word you want to convey to the future therapists who are currently starting their journey?
Exactly. If you are interested in anyone's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you can pursue psychology and wherever and whatever field you like, you can able to build your own new module as well. You can write a book, you can be an author, you can do whatever you want. It's a very, very vast field. Don't think or limit within yourself like it's this field only have clinical or counseling. Much more opportunities are there, and it's a blooming field, and there is endless opportunities is arising in this field. So be very hopeful. Don't get demotivated. Be motivated and connect with the people in the community to sustain in this field as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Harini. We loved this conversation and hope we will connect soon for another series. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.